Hi and welcome to this coaching videos from the Management M.A.S.T.E.R.Y University. And this time I'm going to be talking about communication. Look, from my experience of nearly 40 years working with in management and also with businesses, again and again, this is the biggest sticking point when it comes to the vast majority of organizations: communication. So many businesses feel that they've actually got wonderful communication, but when you burrow down below the surface an awful lot more, then the reality is there are so many people in the organization that are unclear on what they should be doing, really frustrated as far as the communication between the top down and the bottom up. And yet, we're human beings. It's one of the simplest forms that we have, but we tend to mess it up. Look, when you think about it, if you watch any David Attenborough programs, and look, before anyone says, "Whoa, what's this about David Attenborough?" I'm not in his fan club, and I know other film producers or whatever and commentators actually do different wildlife programs, but I'm just going to use David Attenborough because, let's face it, apart from anything else, he's an absolute legend. But when you've actually seen some of his programs that are in the jungle, as an example, you see monkeys, and they're communicating within their own community, and they don't have access to half the things that we've got as human beings. See, as human beings, we tend to overcomplicate things when it comes to communication. And when you think about it, communication is so simple. Or we like to think it is. See, there's a fantastic saying by George Bernard Shaw, is the illusion of communication is the illusion that's taken place. And that's just it. That's what we tend to do. And what I'm going to share with you now works with absolutely anyone when they're communicating. Whether it's for yourself down to your teams, whether it's yourself upline, whether it's to your partner, to your kids, to the neighbours, whatever it is, the principles are still exactly the same. But like I say, with most organisations now, that's possibly a bit unfair. So I'll reframe that. So with a good chunk of organisations now, they tend to overcomplicate it. And so many organisations rely on email as well. Yes, I know. Yeah. So it's a case of many people think rat-a-tat-tat, ping, just send the send button and communication has taken place. No. You have communicated, but communication involves two or more people. No. Confidence is a big issue with so many people these days, and so many people, when you think about it, confidence is just the beliefs that we have in ourselves. So people aren't communicating with themselves well, never mind communicating with other people. So when it comes to communication, the real key for communication is keep it simple. Now, I don't know about your experiences, but I know with my experiences with certain organisations that I used to work with, we have these jargon terms. Oh, yes. And you've probably got them in your organisation as well. And the thing is, it's all very well when we're communicating internally when we use these particular jargonisations. I don't know if that's a word, but if not, it should be a word, because that sounded good, jargonisations. But we tend to over-jargonise at times. And like I say, it's all very well going internal, but when we're speaking to someone externally, so someone from a different organisation as an example, and we use the same buzz terms, then straight away the communication is broken down before we've even started. Now, when it comes to communication, there are so many different elements to it. And I'm not going to keep you watching these for days or anything along those lines. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to give you some bullet points as far as basic communication is concerned. And you're probably going to be thinking, "Oh, Dave, I know all about basic communication." And indeed, we all do. It's just whether we practice them or not. See, and that's the key, because, excuse me, what we tend to do is, in many circumstances, when we're communicating, we know it's simple, but we're purely focusing from our perspective. We're not focusing on the recipient's perspective. So I hope that makes sense. And hence back to the comment from George Bernard Shaw, the illusion is communication has happened. Now, we have communicated, but like I say, communication is a transaction between at least two people, if not loads of people, okay? And that's the key. So predominantly what I'm going to be referring to is when we're talking face-to-face. So that could be literally in person. Hey, that sort of thing still goes on again occasionally, doesn't it? But it will also be applicable when you think about it if you're using the likes of Teams or Zoom or something along those lines, because the principles are exactly the same. Different when you're using email, okay? And I'll look to cover a little bit of that a bit later on in these particular trainings. But when we think about it, communication, right, it is simple. Now, I keep on using the term simple because, apart from anything else, it is simple. But like I say, we tend to overcomplicate it. And as human beings, we're designed to pick up on these things. However, it's my firm belief that, using my experience, that a lot of these particular traits have been forgotten over the years and certainly not focused on. Although we've all got these capabilities inside us, it's just that we're not necessarily used to triggering them and utilizing them when we should do, okay? So like I say, these are key for everyone, whether, like I say, in the business environment, so you're communicating to a colleague. Sorry, I know the latest term is co-worker, old school, everyone's a colleague, okay? So when I say colleague, you refer to it as co-worker if you wish. I don't mind, all right? So when you turn to a colleague, whether that's upline, whether it's downline, whether it's the same level, it doesn't matter, okay? The principles are still the same. And also outside work, as I've shared, maybe your kids, may well be your partner, may well be friends, family, whatever it is. The principles are exactly the same, okay? So you've probably come across this already, and it's something called the communication triangle. And to give you a clue, there's a triangle, all right? Now, I must admit, I've looked into this and I can't see where it originated from, so I can't give you a history lesson on it. But there's 3 points to it, all right? So the sum of all of these 3 points need to total 100%. So that plus that plus that, okay? So you didn't think you were going to be getting a maths lesson here either, did you? All right, so the first thing that we need to look at is the words. Because let's face it, we talk an awful lot, don't you? We do. Yeah, we're human beings, we do, or the vast majority of us do. And yet, this is quite often where communication falls down. There's a term I heard not so long ago, which still makes me giggle now, as you can tell. And that is, the thing with communication is the belief that it's actually happened and that people are listening. See, the reality is, where we are in this day and age, people's attention span is minimal. And you may well have already switched this video off, I don't know. But it's absolutely minimal. So the words that we use have got to be clear, concise, and I'll get my teeth fixed as well in a minute, and have got to capture the people or the person that we're communicating to. And yet, like I say, this is where so many people fall down. So we talk an awful lot, don't we? So I know that you can't physically answer me while I'm doing this, but bear in mind, all 3 of those particular points need to total 100%, all right? So what percentage would you say that words take as far as that is concerned? So if you're talking one-to-one, so what percentage of the words that you are saying to the person in front of you are being digested by them? Okay. Now I'm sure you've got a figure in mind. So I'm going to imagine here. All right. So the telepathy's working for us. So many people would actually say, well, you've actually got these 3 points there, and I don't know what your other 2 answers are going to be, which is fair enough. And as we talk so much, then, I guess, 50%, 60%, possibly 70%. Some of you will have gone a little bit lower. And the reality is, it's only 7% of the words that we say to someone that is actually being digested. So if that's come as a shock to you, then I hope you were sat down when you saw and heard that. Because there are so many people that do seem to have, I will use the term verbal diarrhea, and they just keep on talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, don't they? And you may well be there thinking, yes, Dave, so get on with it. Yes, you may well be. But it's only 7% of the words that we say are being digested by the recipients. And yet, the vast majority of people, when they're talking, whether it be conversationally, whether it be giving an instruction or whatever, that is all they are focused on, the words. And it's only 7%. Scary, really, isn't it? And we wonder why, when it comes to organisations, that quite often communication is the sticking point when it comes to the business. Because people are focusing on the wrong things. Okay? So that's your first point of the triangle. The second one is your tonality. So in essence, that's how you say these words. Now, I'm sure you, like I, have been to, let's say, trainings or listened to a member of the hierarchy or whatever that have given a presentation and it's just boring, where the tonality is just, it's like flatlined. There's no emotion, there's no energy behind these words when they're being said. And if you, like I, have experienced that, is it also fair to say that you've switched off? Yes. Now, you may well really like the person, but because of their delivery, it's just laborious. And this is the second element. We've discussed the words and only 7% are being digested. So it's how we get them over. Now, I'm just going to share with you. So please excuse me for turning the page. And the page did turn. Right. Now, we've got loads of archetypes. And I'm not going to go through loads of them because there's around about 20. So I'm not going to do that for the purpose of this. I'm just going to focus on the 3. Okay. So male, breathing, I like things simple. Okay. So this is how you're going to be saying these words. So the first one that you have is the warrior. Now the warrior is the one that you say that's a bit louder, sometimes a bit quicker in pace, because you're trying to get a certain point over. It's a point that you are trying to have impact with. But you don't use that all of the time. Because if someone's going to be talking like this all the time, then you're just going to switch off, aren't you? And that's the thing. We need variety. We need totally different elements when we are talking. Because that's going to keep people engaged. But again, so many people don't do that. But again, if you think about over the years, some of the phenomenal speakers, the way that they have fluctuated their tone of voice, So they're not always at one particular level, whether it be up here or indeed whether it's down here. They are varying their voice to the audience at certain parts of their presentation to get the message over. So that was the first one, the warrior. So just to elaborate a little bit more on the warrior, the warrior is the one that gets things done. Okay, it's the one that advances the situation. That's in essence what the warrior is, but it's also a case of how you do that as far when it comes to your tonality. The next one is the sage. Now the sage is the font of all knowledge, okay? And the beauty of the sage is with having that knowledge, they want to share it with other people. So in essence, when it comes to your voice tonality, the sage is your normal voice. So you're not fluctuating as far as the warrior is concerned, and you're not lowering necessarily, like the next one that I'll discuss is concerned either. So it's your normal tone of voice. Now obviously that can be quickened, but it can also be slowed down as well. So that's the sage. And then the final one, for the purpose of this, is the lover. Now, I'm not saying that you do anything physical when you're actually using this tonality as far as the lover is concerned. But the lover actually speaks for itself, doesn't it? Note the body language I did there for later on. See, the lover is slower with the way that they deliver, because they're conscious about how the other person receives the information and perceives them. So it's very pointed, and in fact it comes from the heart. It doesn't always have to be this slow, but normally the level of volume is actually reduced a bit as well when it comes to speaking as the lover. Because normally, with your partner, you wouldn't normally be talking like that, would you, as the warrior? You would be normally talking a bit slower, especially when it's, you're having a romantic time or whatever. Not saying that you're going to have a romantic time with your team, I hasten to add, all right? I don't mean it that way. But I'm just using that as an example. So they're the three elements, or the three archetypes I'm going to be covering for now when it comes to the tonality. Because your tonality is key. And like I say, with so many great speakers or presenters that you've heard over time, they will fluctuate their voice and utilize all three elements of those. So the warrior, the sage, and also the lover. And that's why tonality is so important, because that's 38% of the words that are digested and received because of the way that you use your voice to transfer that information. And that's why tonality is so important. But like I say, as a generalization, it is not even thought about. Because so many people are just focusing on the words that they need to say. And they actually start talking really quickly like that because they don't like talking to people. So there's two of the three elements. Now the final one, pardon me, which, excuse me, sorry. Which you may well be thinking, well, hang on a second, if we're talking, what's body language got to do with it? Well, if your maths is any good, 38 and 7, yes, okay, so that's 45. So your body language is obviously 55%. So it's got a massive element to what you are saying and how you are saying it to other people. Because the reality is, we as human beings, our natural state is survival state. So when someone's talking to us, we view their body language in as much as, are they a threat to us? Now, I'm assuming when I say this that we're in close proximity, not the other side of a screen, okay? So we do, whether it be consciously or indeed unconsciously, we do register what the body language is. And if you've seen someone in any situation where they seem to be, so we say, shoulders back, chest out, puffed up, walking a bit more aggressively, you will see certain people that will start to cower in readiness, because that's, like I say, our survival brain that's kicking in, whether we're going to do the fight, flight or freeze. But it also applies when we're talking to people as well. And there's several different elements to body language. I'm not going to go through all of them for the purpose of this, because this particular video would be on for hours, yes? So I'm not going to be doing that. So some of the obvious ones are facial expressions, which I can't fit in. So you're going to have to use your imagination, and that says expressions. Now, if you've got someone coming towards you that is going to be talking to you, that's got a face like thunder, how likely are you to really listen to them and digest the information? For most people, they will go into survival mode again, thinking that the information that's going to get shared is going to be adverse. So they're not necessarily going to be thinking and engaging. Now, engaging is going to be for a totally different set of videos, but for the purpose of this, yeah, they're not going to be engaged. So facial expressions are so key. And one of the easiest ones to do is smile. Believe it or not, yeah, there's something like 80 muscles in the face, and you know, it takes a small percentage to smile, but it takes loads more muscles to frown. And yet so many people like doing facial gymnastics because they're like frowning so much of the time. But doesn't it make sense to smile an awful lot more? Because what normally happens when you smile at someone? They normally smile back, don't they? Yeah, either that or you get arrested. But hopefully we won't talk about the second one. Yes, but they smile back. So it's the art of reciprocation. But what it also does as well, if you're smiling when you're talking to someone, then they loosen up as well. They change their body language, they change their physiology, and like I say, they tend to smile back. Because what you're doing, without even realising, is you're having an impact on their emotional state. They don't even realise it most of the time either, but that's what's happening. See, and when you do that, it's so much easier to get your message over to them because you've changed their state. And smiling is such a simple one. Okay? So, smiling. Okay. Now, what you've actually got is movement. See, again, movement is key. Look, I move around quite a bit when I'm presenting. Why? Because I love doing it. So, yeah, I put loads of energy and loads of emotion into it because I want to get my message over. And hopefully it has. If not, then I need to go back to the drawing board. No, seriously, it's me. I'm being authentic when I do this. Movement is key because when you use your body to move, then again, it interacts with the other person. And it's so key when you do that. Because let's face it, you know, unless you are a soldier that's on duty at Buckingham Palace when you're standing there to attention and you can't move whatever, then we're designed to move. We're human beings, aren't we? So, to get your message over, be authentic. So, gestures is another one. And as you will have seen, yeah, again, I use hand gestures an awful lot. Now, if you recall, remember I mentioned as far as the three elements of tonality, the warrior, the sage and the lover. you can use these with your gestures as well. So with your gestures, this is like train a bit, this, but I'm going into it anyway for the simple reason it can potentially help yourself. So with your gestures, if with your tonality you're using a warrior, then a typical pose for the warrior is that. Now, things have changed over the years, and you used to be able to do that. And I'll let you into a secret, you still can. Yes, I did say that. Oh, there's another warrior pose. Yes, I did say that. You still can. But not in a way where it's pointedly. And it's one of those things that what I tend to do if I'm presenting, if I'm using that, I've normally got a big smile, and it's a soft gesture. So it's not, it's, you. Or sometimes I will use a slightly bent finger, or I'll use a bit of more of a palm up, if you will, okay? But you can still use it. It's just that over the years, things have been dumbed down an awful lot. Not going to get away from it. They've been dumbed down an awful lot because people have used the likes of gestures the wrong way. And also, people have been programmed over the years to view things the wrong way. Now, don't get me wrong. Look, if you take politicians, and realistically, you may not be young enough when I share this, but when Tony Blair was Prime Minister here in the UK, right at the very beginning, he used to do an awful lot of that, and that changed over time. So it then became a lot of bent finger, and then it changed to the thumb. Yeah, realistically, it's the same thing because it's still emphasizing the message that you're trying to get over. Just that it's not, if it's a wagging finger like that, then that's classed as being aggressive. You're not doing it in an aggressive way. You may well do it as, that sort of thing. Okay, so it's not meant in an aggressive way. Now, personally, I do not like the thumb scenario. Why? Because things are closed up. Now, realistically, if you're communicating with someone, you need your body language to be as open as possible. And that is really key. Because if you're closed up, if you're hunched up, and you're actually doing this as well, then the perception is, fight, flight, or freeze, that, hey, this is not going to be good, and people will start to withdraw from you. And I don't necessarily mean physically, but I mean as far as emotionally and listening is concerned as well. And you don't want that when you're trying to get your message over. Okay? So that is one of them when it comes to your gestures using your warrior. Now, a sage, bear in mind, this is normally going to be your sort of normal talking level. So the sage is, like I said, the font of all knowledge, the one who wants to share information. So a classic pose, pose, as far as the sage is concerned, is quite often, so it's as if you're actually thinking. Now, you may well be thinking, but yes, so you're thinking about what you're saying, or you possibly, sorry, again, another little warrior flick there, or you're possibly thinking about the answers that they are giving to you when they're talking back to you in response. See, all of these little nuances, for want of a better term, are little skill sets that will actually help you get your communication over in a much better way than what the vast majority of people do. Okay? So there's the sage, and then you've got your lover. Now, your lover, as a generalization when it comes to your body language, is really open, hands out. I'm assuming you can see that on the camera. Okay, I can't see the screen from here. So it's quite often the case it's that sort of gesture. So you're showing that you are open. And that's a big thing when communication needs to happen from yourself to one or indeed a group of people. Now, I say all of this because, like I said, I'm talking as if you are in person with someone. These things will still apply if you're on a screen as well, assuming that as far as your camera angle is concerned, they can see you from about, your belly button upwards, shall we say, okay? Because you can still do your gestures when you're on camera, when you're on a screen, and it will still be impactful and help you get your message over better than quite often what so many people do, okay? See, you, like everyone else on the planet, are unique and have got a special skill set. And I just think it's a travesty that when it comes to management as a generalization, that so many people are so gifted, and yet they struggle to get their message over. And sometimes that creates a misconception about that individual, when their passion is to actually help so many people and be the best for themselves, the team, the organization. So that's why I'm actually sharing these particular elements, okay? So that is gestures. And then the final one for today with these is your posture. Posture is a big one. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's come up to you to have a conversation and have been walking up like that? It's as if the weight of the world is on their shoulders. Have you ever had that? I know I certainly have. And to be honest, thinking about it, thinking about it, many, many, many years ago, I probably did that at times as well. Actually, I probably did that an awful lot of times, being perfectly honest. But yeah, it was just one of those things that, yeah, just thinking about it now. But your posture is key, because when you're getting your message over, you need to be doing it with certainty. So with confidence in another way. See, if you're going in to have a conversation with someone and you're down and you're flat and everything, then first of all, you're not going to be able to breathe properly, because you're condensing your lungs and everything there. But it's also a case of people will pick up on that. Now, if you've got an important message to get over, then like I say, it's going to get picked up on that, hey, you are not you. So straight away, this is going to be bad news. Yeah, that's what people's perception is, because we as human beings are designed to pick up on body language. Now, ladies are an awful lot better at this than what guys are as a generalization. Okay, so it's the little nuances that can actually make a big difference and have a massive impact when it comes to you and how you're communicating with others. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So your posture, so if you're going to be doing a presentation, and when I say a presentation, even just to say good morning to someone around the coffee machine, that's a presentation. Because you don't want to be there going, morning, do you? And if you're anything like me, you've probably witnessed people doing that sort of thing. Yeah, what a lovely day. What's lovely about it, you know? So your posture is key. So what I suggest is, if you're going to be having a chat with someone, and because again, what most people tend to do, and as far as their working day is concerned, so much of it for so many people now is being sat down. And I don't know where you are, obviously, but if you're in the office, then maybe tomorrow, next day or whatever, just have a look around the posture of people in the office when you get in first thing in the morning. For most people, I'm just going to turn so you can actually see this in profile, and hopefully my nose doesn't go off the camera. But for most people, they're actually sat up pretty well at the beginning of the day. Then by the end of the day, you have them hunched over like that. Apart from anything else, it's gravity. Pardon me. And what tends to happen is we don't move around as much as what we should. Now, we've probably all been guilty of that at times. I know I certainly have. Where it's a case of started doing something, I thought, oh, it's been about half an hour now, I must make a move or something, then I've realised it's 2.5 hours later, you know? So we're probably all guilty of that at some stage. But be conscious of your posture, because what we tend to do, like I say, is slouch over as the day progresses. So if you're going to be talking to someone, sit back in the chair, shoulders back, chest out, okay? If you're going to be standing up talking to someone, then the same thing, but make sure your feet are about hip width apart, pointing forward, okay? Because when you do that, the body is aligned, and it's better for being able to deliver your message. But also the recipients, especially if they can see you, and the reality is they are going to see you being in a confident posture, so you believe in what you're going to be delivering, what you're going to be sharing, whether it's a presentation, whether it's just a case of, look, do you want sugar with your coffee, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. The communication is going over there the right way. And again, like everything else, lover, yeah, lover posture there, yeah. I just hope that's come over the right way for you. So that's as far as delivering is concerned. Now, I can't do too much with reference to the next bit, as we're talking, or as I'm just talking to camera here, because we're not in the same room. Now, if we were in the same room, I would put a couple of tests here, but we're not. So you've got to wait with that one. Now, the biggest thing, that's sorted that out, okay? So again, if you tot all those up, they will come to you 100%. Look, I did this some years ago now with this particular group. And yes, let's just say, you got your 7, your 38 and your 55 there. I had to go off on a tangent because I then had to do a maths lesson with someone of how to get to 100%. Okay? And the reason why I share that, and she was a lovely lady, but the reason why I say that is the fact of when we're communicating, we automatically assume that the recipient or recipients have got an understanding of what we're sharing. But sometimes you're going to come across situations where they don't. So sometimes you need to go off on a tangent to invest some time to bring them up to speed. Okay, it may well throw a little bit of a curveball in your plans, but sometimes you need to do that, or possibly delegate it to someone else that could actually help this individual. So when it comes to communication, the key with it in reality is expect the unexpected. Because sometimes what appear to be simple things aren't necessarily that simple. And the key to communicating, the real key to communicating, is being able to deliver your information at the recipient's level in a way that they can understand and digest it. That's key. All of these are so important that I've shared so far, but it's also understanding your audience. Now, again, don't get me wrong. That is not necessarily saying that you take it to the lowest denominator for everything. That's different. So if you've actually got high level, you've got, I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, but low level as far as understanding is concerned, best bet is, as a generalization, share your information mid-level with a little bit that goes up and a little bit that goes down as well, okay? But you will know your own audience and will have a good understanding, whether that's just a one-to-one conversation or indeed a one-to-many conversation, okay? So hopefully, again, that makes sense. Now, so like I say, all of these are important, and sometimes expect the unexpected. Now, if I can do this particular page, yes, good. Now, don't laugh at my drawing, all right? Please don't. I know that you will, because it isn't going to be pretty, I tell you. So I am purposely turning my back to camera at this moment in time for the simple reason so you hopefully can't see what I'm doing until I want to share it with you. There we go. Okay, a masterpiece. I'm sure that you will agree with that. And I'm sure Banksy is really worried about the competition. Right? Now, the real key. The real key. There's so many keys, really. But the real key when it comes to communication is using those, the ears, and listening. I paused there purposely because hopefully you were. Yeah, it is to listen. So that's listen to the responses that you're getting, but also listening to the words that aren't being said. Yes. Okay, warrior. Okay, key. I mentioned sorry, it's 2 pages. I mentioned as far as body language is concerned. So this is why I say listen to the things that aren't being said. If you see subtle changes or big changes when it comes to the recipient's body language, you know that there's a disconnect there. And when there's a disconnect, that's when you need to ask questions. Because although we are not together, and I've actually done it on video a little bit, one of the keys is to check and understand. No, it's not one of the keys. It's the biggest key out of all of this is concerned, is to check on understanding. And this is where so many people, and I mean of all levels, so many people actually fall down. They deliver what they want to say, and that's it. Yes. Well, I've spoken, so of course everyone's going to understand. Nope. And that's the reality. And what most people do, and they do this wrong, I'm going to be direct with that, they do this wrong. What most people do on checking on understanding is, does that make sense? Yep. Well, how many people are going to say no? Because they don't want to look stupid, especially if there's a group of people. So the real key when it comes to communication is to check on understanding. So you ask open-ended questions as far as the information that you've just delivered. So you don't do your closed questions as in yes or no, because like I say, people do not want to look stupid. So let's say there's a group of 5 there. Don't ask me where the figure 5 came from, it just came to mind. All right? But there's a group of 5 there. They don't want to look stupid in front of their colleagues. So I'll just say yes and just keep quiet. Yeah. And the drawback with that is they may well then go off and do something that they're not supposed to. You're then going to have to follow up, potentially. You're going to have to follow up, find out what's gone wrong, reissue the same information again, and all of this is wasting time. And I came across studies a while ago, and it was something like, forgive me, I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head, but it was a study done with numerous senior management in organisations, and most of them were actually saying that, no, 95% of them, let's say give or take as far as that was concerned, was saying that their business was inefficient because of the amount of time that had been wasted through poor communication. And that's why it's key to check and understanding by asking open questions. So as an example, we've gone through this. So if we were together, I would say, as an example, so tell me, yeah, what sort of percentage was it for tonality? Now you would give your answer. And the answer was 38%. So if you'd have given me the answer of 38%, then I'd have known straight away that you would have understood. the percentage when it came to tonality and would have absorbed, the information that was on that first bit of paper that I did. And then I may well do a follow-up one. So that's great. So when it comes to tonality again, there were 3 elements or archetypes that I mentioned. Give me 2 of them. Now I've paused there so you can actually think about it and then come back with your 2. See, and that's how you check understanding when you've communicated, so you know that your message has been delivered, it's been received, it's been digested, and then the only thing that needs to happen then, depending on what the information was that you were sharing, is that they need to then go and apply it. And like I say, that's the same whether it's upline, downline, crossline, family, friends, doesn't matter. It's the same principles. And when that is right, then straight away, I'll use the business philosophy here, but the business can work more efficiently. And isn't that's what we all need and want? So I hope that's made sense, and I hope you got some value from that as well. So no matter where you are, whatever you're doing, take care, look after yourself, keep on being special, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Okay, bye now.